My stepmom's voice cut through the living room like a knife through butter. Aaliyah wasn't there when we needed her most, she said, her tone dripping with disappointed certainty. I stood in the doorway, frozen, watching my entire family nod in agreement. Uncle Thomas looked at me with something close to disgust. Aunt Beverly wouldn't even meet my eyes. My cousin Zara actually turned away. The heat started in my chest and crawled up my neck until my face felt like it was on fire. I wanted to speak, to defend myself, to scream that this wasn't true. But the words stuck in my throat like thick mud. My stepmom continued, her voice soft and sad, painting a picture of a daughter who disappeared when her father needed her most. She wiped at her eyes even though no tears fell. The worst part was how everyone believed her without question. No one asked me where I'd been. No one wondered if maybe there was another side to this story. They just accepted her version like it was written in stone. I realized something terrifying in that moment. This story had already been told, retold, and believed long before I walked into this room. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. My brain was screaming, but my voice had completely abandoned me. This wasn't just an accusation being thrown around in anger. This was calculated, rehearsed, perfect. My stepmom looked at me with what anyone else would call sympathy, but I could see the cold satisfaction behind her eyes. She'd been waiting for this moment, I realized. Waiting for me to walk in and face the family she'd already turned against me. My hands started shaking, so I shoved them in my pockets. Uncle Thomas shook his head and walked toward the kitchen. Aunt Beverly followed him, throwing me one last disappointed look. I wanted to run after them, to explain, to show them the truth. But what truth? What could I say that would undo weeks of her careful storytelling? My stepmom had built this narrative brick by brick, and I'd been too blind to see it happening. She'd always been so sweet to my face, so concerned, so helpful. Now I understood what she'd really been doing. She'd been setting me up. I just want everyone to know, my stepmom continued, her voice breaking just slightly for effect, that I don't blame Aaliyah. She's young. She has her own life. I understand that family isn't always a priority for everyone. The words hit me like physical blows. Not a priority. My father was everything to me. But before I could finally force words out, she kept going. When your dad collapsed, I was the one who found him. I was the one who called the ambulance. I was the one who spent 3 days at the hospital while he fought for his life. She paused, looking around the room at all the sympathetic faces. I just wish Aaliyah had wanted to be there too. That was when I found my voice. Not to them but to you. My name is Aaliyah Jackson, and I'm 24 years old. The woman speaking is my stepmom, Vanessa, and everything she just said is a carefully constructed lie. Not all of it is false, which makes it even more dangerous. Yes, my dad collapsed. Yes, he was in the hospital. Yes, it was terrifying. But I wasn't absent. I was exactly where she told me to be. Let me take you back 3 weeks to when this nightmare actually started. It was a Tuesday evening, and I was at work finishing up a presentation when my phone rang. Vanessa's name flashed on the screen, which was unusual. We weren't close, despite her 5 years of marriage to my dad. She usually texted if she needed something. Aaliyah. Her voice was urgent, breathless. It's your father. He collapsed at home. I've called an ambulance. My heart stopped. Everything around me disappeared except her voice and the sound of sirens in the background. What happened? Is he breathing? Is he conscious? I was already grabbing my keys, shoving my laptop into my bag. The paramedics are here now, she said quickly. They're taking him to Memorial Hospital. But Aaliyah listened to me carefully. I stopped moving, pressing the phone harder against my ear. Don't come to the hospital yet. It's chaos here, and they're not letting anyone back to see him anyway. Let me get him settled, find out what's happening, and I'll call you with an update. Okay. Sounded reasonable. She was already there. She would have more information soon. Are you sure? I asked, my voice shaking. I can be there in 20 minutes. No, honey, she said firmly. Stay calm. I'll handle everything. I promise I'll call you soon. I paced my apartment for 2 hours, checking my phone every 30 seconds. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I called Vanessa 4 times, but each call went straight to voicemail. I texted her. Any update? Is Dad okay? What did the doctors say? No response. I considered just driving to the hospital anyway. But what if she was right? What if they weren't letting visitors in yet? What if I showed up and caused a scene while my dad was being treated? I didn't want to make things harder for him. So I waited. At 10 o'clock that night, she finally called back. He's stable, she said, and I nearly collapsed with relief. They're running tests, but he's awake and talking. It looks like it might have been a severe episode related to his blood pressure medication. Can I come see him now? I asked, already putting on my shoes. The visiting hours are over for tonight, she replied quickly. And honestly, he's exhausted. The doctors gave him something to help him sleep. Come tomorrow morning instead. I'll text you what time is best. Okay, I said, feeling helpless. Tell him I love him. Tell him I'll be there first thing. Of course, she said sweetly. Get some rest, Aaliyah. He's going to be fine. The next morning I woke up at 6 and checked my phone immediately. No text from Vanessa. I sent her a message. What time should I come to the hospital? I made coffee, got dressed and kept checking. Nothing. At 8 o'clock I called her. Voicemail. I called the hospital directly and asked about my father, Wesley Jackson. He's in stable condition, the nurse said. Are you family? I'm his daughter. Visiting hours start at 9. You can come anytime after that. I was in my car by 8:30, driving to Memorial Hospital with my hands gripping the steering wheel too tight. But when I was 5 minutes away, Vanessa finally called. Aaliyah, where are you? Almost at the hospital, I said. I tried calling you this morning. Oh honey, I'm so sorry, she sighed. My phone died last night and I forgot my charger. Listen, the doctors are with your dad right now doing a full cardiac workup. It'll take a few hours. Maybe come this afternoon instead. I don't want you sitting in the waiting room all day. Felt torn. Are you sure? I really want to see him. I know, sweetie. But trust me, it's better this way. I'll call you the second the tests are done. I promise. So I turned my car around and went home, feeling like the worst daughter in the world. That afternoon I waited. And waited. My phone stayed silent. I sent Vanessa 3 more texts. How is he? Is he still being tested? Please just let me know he's okay. Nothing. By 6 o'clock I was frantic. I called the hospital again, asked for his room number, and was connected directly to his floor. I'm sorry, the nurse said. Mr. Jackson already has a visitor, and he's only allowed 1 at a time due to hospital policy. Can you tell him his daughter called? Yes. Of course. That night Vanessa sent me a text at 9:30. So sorry, it was a crazy day. Dad is doing much better. Doctors are keeping him 1 more night for observation. Come see him tomorrow after lunch. He'll be more alert then. The message felt off somehow, but I couldn't pinpoint why. I texted back. I'll be there at 1 o'clock. Please tell him I love him and I've been trying to come see him. She responded with a simple thumbs up emoji. I barely slept that night. Something in my gut told me something wasn't right, but I couldn't figure out what. I kept replaying her words, her instructions, trying to understand why I felt so uneasy. I decided that tomorrow, no matter what she said, I was going to see my dad. The next day, I showed up at Memorial Hospital at exactly 1 o'clock. I walked through the automatic doors with flowers I'd bought from the gift shop and my dad's favorite chocolate bars tucked in my bag. I took the elevator to the 4th floor, found his room number from the nurse's station, and walked down the hall with my heart pounding. But when I reached his room, it was empty. The bed was made. All the medical equipment was gone. My chest tightened with panic. Had something happened? Was he okay? I rushed back to the nurse's station. Wesley Jackson in room 412, I said breathlessly. Where is he? The nurse checked her computer. He was discharged this morning at 11. Discharged? Are you sure? Yes, his wife signed him out about 3 hours ago. I stood there completely stunned. She'd told me to come at 1 o'clock. She knew he'd be gone. I pulled out my phone and called her. It rang 4 times before she picked up. "Oh, Aaliyah," she said brightly. "I was just about to call you. Your dad is home. The doctors cleared him this morning. Isn't that wonderful?" My voice came out flat. "You told me to come at 1. Did I? Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. Things moved so fast this morning. But don't worry, come by the house tonight for dinner. Your dad would love to see you." I didn't go to dinner that night. Instead, I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot and felt something shift inside me. This wasn't disorganization or forgetfulness. This was deliberate. She'd kept me away from the hospital for 3 days. Every time I tried to visit, she had a reason why I shouldn't. Every call went unanswered until it was too late. And now my dad was home, and I hadn't seen him once during his entire hospital stay. My phone buzzed. Uncle Thomas had posted on social media, grateful for Vanessa's dedication during Wesley's health crisis. She never left his side. We're blessed to have her in the family. My stomach dropped. Never left his side. The comments poured in. Relatives I hadn't talked to in months were praising her. Aunt Beverly. "You're a saint, Vanessa." Cousin Zara. "We don't deserve you." My cousin Malik. "Thank God Wesley has someone so devoted." I sat there reading comment after comment, watching my stepmom being celebrated for her tireless devotion, and I realized something terrifying. She wasn't just keeping me away from my dad. She was building a story where she was the hero, and I was nowhere to be found. I took a screenshot of Uncle Thomas's post and saved it. I didn't know why yet, but something told me I might need it later. I went through our text messages that night, reading every single exchange from the past 3 days. Tuesday 6:47 p.m. Vanessa. "Don't come to the hospital yet." Tuesday 10:02 p.m. Vanessa. "Come tomorrow morning instead." Wednesday 11:34 a.m. Vanessa. "Come this afternoon instead." Wednesday 9:31 p.m. Vanessa. "Come see him tomorrow after lunch." Thursday 1:15 p.m. Me. "You told me to come at 1. Thursday 1:18 p.m. Vanessa. "Come by the house tonight for dinner." I took screenshots of everything. Every message. Every timestamp. Then I went through my call log. 4 calls to her on Tuesday night, all unanswered. 3 calls Wednesday morning, all sent to voicemail. 2 calls Wednesday afternoon that she finally returned hours later. I screenshotted those 2. Then I called the hospital one more time. "I'm calling about my father, Wesley Jackson. He was a patient there this week. Can you tell me what days he had visitors?" The nurse paused. "I can only confirm that he had 1 consistent visitor during his stay." "Just 1?" "Yes, ma'am. His wife was with him most of the time." "Did anyone else try to visit? Did he have any other family come by?" "Not according to our records." I thanked her and hung up. Then I saved her name and the date and time of our conversation in my notes app. I was building something too, I realized. Just not a story. The truth. Over the next week, things got quieter. Vanessa stopped texting me. My dad called once to say he was feeling better, but the conversation felt strange and distant. When I asked him about the hospital, he said he didn't remember much. "It's all kind of a blur," he admitted. "But Vanessa took great care of me." I bit my tongue. Family group chats that usually included me went silent. Cousin Zara's birthday came and went, and I wasn't invited to her party. Aunt Beverly posted pictures from a family dinner I didn't know was happening. Uncle Thomas commented on Vanessa's social media constantly, praising her strength and dedication. I wasn't mentioned once. It was like I was being slowly erased. Not dramatically. Not with big confrontations or angry messages. Just quietly excluded. Removed. Forgotten. I kept waiting for someone to ask where I'd been. To wonder why I hadn't visited my dad in the hospital. To give me a chance to explain. But nobody did. Because Vanessa had already given them the answer. I'd chosen not to be there. I put my own life ahead of family. I'd abandoned them when they needed me most. The narrative was set. And I was the villain in a story I didn't even know was being written. I started keeping a detailed record of everything. Not because I was planning anything, but because I needed to know I wasn't going crazy. I wrote down every conversation, every missed invitation, every cold shoulder. I noted the dates, the times, the exact words used. I saved every social media post that praised Vanessa and excluded me. I backed up every text message to 3 different places. In my notes app, I created a timeline of the 3 days my dad was hospitalized. What time Vanessa called me. What she told me. When she said to come. Why she said not to. What the hospital records showed. What actually happened. The 2 timelines didn't match. Not even close. Her story had gaps. Contradictions. Moments where what she told me and what actually happened were completely different. But here's what scared me. Her story was the one everyone believed. Because I'd been silent. Because I'd followed her instructions. Because I'd stayed away when she told me to. And now that looked like abandonment. I realized then that the truth doesn't always matter. What matters is who tells the story first, who tells it most convincingly, and who has an audience ready to believe them. Vanessa had all 3. I made a decision to stay quiet. Not because I was afraid, but because I was smart. Confronting her now would make me look defensive, desperate, guilty. It would be my word against hers, and she'd already spent weeks building credibility. So I waited. I watched. I documented. When family members pulled away, I didn't chase them. When invitations stopped coming, I didn't complain. When Vanessa posted more stories about her devotion to my dad, I didn't comment. Silence was my strategy, even though it hurt like hell. My best friend Keisha was the only person I told. You need to say something, she insisted. You need to defend yourself. Not yet, I said. She wants me to react. She wants me to look bitter and jealous. I won't give her that. So what's your plan? I don't have one yet, I admitted. But I'm not going to let her rewrite history. Eventually the truth comes out. It always does. Keisha looked skeptical, but she trusted me. Meanwhile, Vanessa grew more confident. She started hosting family gatherings at her and my dad's house. She took over planning everything. She became the center of our family, the person everyone called first. And I became a ghost. 2 weeks after my dad came home from the hospital, Vanessa made her move. She posted a long message on social media that made my blood run cold. I've been thinking a lot about family lately, it began. About what it means to show up for the people you love, even when it's hard. When Wesley had his health crisis, I was terrified. But I knew I couldn't fall apart. Someone had to be strong. Someone had to be there. The post continued for 3 paragraphs, talking about sleepless nights, difficult decisions, and the weight of responsibility. Then came the knife. I don't judge people who choose differently. Everyone has their own priorities. I just hope that when the people we love need us most, we find the courage to show up. She didn't mention my name. She didn't have to. 53 people liked it. 27 people commented with hearts and praises and, "You're amazing" messages. Aunt Beverly shared it with the caption, "This is what real family looks like." I sat on my couch staring at my phone, reading it over and over. She'd done it. She'd made her accusation public without actually accusing me. She'd let everyone else fill in the blanks. And they did. The comments made it clear who they thought she was talking about. I took a screenshot and added it to my folder. I didn't respond to the post. I didn't react at all. Instead, I spent that evening organizing everything I'd collected. Text messages in chronological order. Call logs with timestamps. Hospital records showing visitor information. Screenshots of social media posts. Dates and times of every interaction. I created a document with 2 columns. On the left, what Vanessa had told me. On the right, what actually happened. The pattern was obvious when you saw it all together. She'd systematically kept me away from my dad while telling everyone else I'd chosen not to come. She'd answered my calls and texts just enough to seem responsive, but always too late for me to actually visit. She'd given me instructions that made sense in the moment but looked like excuses when viewed from the outside. It was brilliant, honestly. Cruel but brilliant. Because if anyone asked her, she could show our text conversations. She could prove she'd been in contact with me the whole time. She could say she'd kept me updated, invited me to visit, tried to include me. The fact that her timing was always perfectly wrong. That looked like my choice, not her manipulation. I saved the document with the date and backed it up in 3 places. But then something shifted. Vanessa's story started changing slightly depending on who she was talking to. I noticed it first when Uncle Thomas mentioned something at a family gathering I wasn't invited to. My dad told me about it later. Thomas said you called Vanessa from the hospital asking when you could visit, my dad said casually. Froze. I never called from the hospital. I called her cell phone trying to find out when I could come. That's what I thought, my dad said, sounding confused. But Thomas was really specific about it. I pulled up my call log and showed him. Every call to Vanessa's cell phone. Not one to the hospital. My dad frowned but didn't say anything else. Then cousin Zara told Keisha that Vanessa had said I'd come to the hospital once but left after 10 minutes because I had plans. That wasn't true either. I'd never made it to his room. Then Aunt Beverly mentioned that Vanessa had told her I'd sent flowers to the hospital but never visited in person. Also not true. The details kept shifting. Small changes. Slight variations. Different versions for different people. And that was her mistake. Because while one story is hard to disprove, multiple contradictory stories fall apart under scrutiny. The final piece fell into place when Vanessa sent an email to our extended family. She was organizing a celebration for my dad's recovery and wanted everyone to contribute to a gift. The email was long and detailed, thanking everyone for their support during the hardest week of our lives. Then she wrote, I want to especially acknowledge how difficult this was for Aaliyah, who wanted to be there but chose to respect the hospital's restrictions and give Wesley space to heal. Her decision not to visit during those critical days was her way of showing love, and I respect that, even if I might have chosen differently. I read it 3 times. She'd put it in writing. Her version of events. Permanent. Documented. Sent to 47 family members. But here's what she didn't know. The hospital had no such restrictions. I'd called and confirmed it. Patients could have visitors during normal visiting hours. 1 at a time, yes. But there were no special restrictions on my dad's floor. So I forwarded her email to myself and added it to my folder. Then I did something I should have done weeks ago. I requested my dad's complete hospital records, including visitor logs and any notes about family communication. Took 3 days to process, but when they arrived I had everything I needed. The truth in black and white. My dad asked to see me on a Thursday afternoon. Not at his house but at a coffee shop near my apartment. That was unusual enough to make me nervous. When I arrived, he was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee and an expression I couldn't read. Hi Dad, I said carefully. How are you feeling? Better, he said. Sit down, Aaliyah. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. This was it. He was going to tell me how disappointed he was. How hurt. How he couldn't believe I hadn't come to see him when he was sick. But instead, he pushed a piece of paper across the table. What is this? He asked. It's the visitor log from the hospital. I requested it yesterday. My hand started shaking as I picked it up. It showed exactly what I knew it would. Vanessa had been there every day. Multiple times each day. Hours at a time. But there was something else. On Wednesday, the day she told me to come at 1 in the afternoon, the log showed she'd checked out at 10 in the morning. And hadn't returned until 4. She hadn't been there when she'd told me to come. The afternoon she'd said I should stay away because doctors were with him. The log showed no medical procedures. He'd had visitors' hours available. She just hadn't been there to let me in. My dad's face was tight with anger, but not at me. Tell me what happened, he said quietly. All of it. So I did. I showed him everything. The text messages with timestamps, call logs, the screenshots of her social media posts, the email she'd sent to the family, the hospital records I'd requested, the visitor log he'd just given me. I walked him through every single day. Every time she'd told me not to come, every excuse she'd made, every message that had gone unanswered until it was too late. I followed her instructions, I said, my voice shaking. I trusted her. And then she told everyone I'd abandoned you. My dad sat there for a long time, just staring at the documents spread across the table. His coffee went cold. People came and went around us. Finally he looked up at me. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because she'd already told you her version, I said. Because everyone believed her. Because I knew how it would sound if I came to you with accusations against your wife without proof. So I waited. I documented everything. And I let her keep talking until her story had enough holes that the truth could shine through. He nodded slowly. What do you want me to do? I want you to ask her to explain, I said simply. Show her this log. Ask her why she told me to come at 1 when she wasn't even there. That evening, my dad asked Vanessa to explain the discrepancies. I wasn't there, but he told me about it later. She tried to justify everything at first. Said she must have gotten the times confused. Said the hospital log must be wrong. Said she was so stressed and exhausted that week that her memory was fuzzy. But when he pressed her, when he showed her the text messages and the exact timestamps, her story started to crumble. She tried a different approach. Said she'd been trying to protect me from seeing him in such a vulnerable state. Said she thought it would be too traumatic for me. Said she was only thinking of my well-being. So you told everyone she abandoned us? My dad asked. That was protecting her. Vanessa got defensive then. Said she never actually said I'd abandoned anyone. Said people had misunderstood. Said she'd always spoken highly of me. My dad pulled out her social media posts, her email, the comments from family members thanking her for being there when others weren't. She couldn't explain those away. Finally, she said the words that told him everything he needed to know. She was taking attention away from you, Vanessa admitted. The family was so worried about Wesley, and then Aaliyah kept calling and texting, making it about her. I thought if she just stayed away for a few days, we could focus on your recovery without distraction. There it was. The truth. I wasn't a distraction. I was competition. For sympathy. For attention. For the role of devoted caregiver. And she'd pushed me out so she could have it all. Over the next few days, something remarkable happened. Family members started reaching out to me privately. First it was cousin Malik. Hey, I think there might have been some misunderstandings about what happened when your dad was sick. Can we talk? Then cousin Zara. I'm really sorry, Aaliyah. I should have asked for your side of the story. Uncle Thomas called me directly. Your dad showed me some things that don't add up with what Vanessa told us. I feel like an idiot. Aunt Beverly sent a long text message apologizing for making assumptions and admitting she'd been too quick to believe one version of events without question. They didn't all reach out at once. It was gradual. Text here, a phone call there. Each one awkward but sincere. Each one proving that the truth does eventually surface if you're patient enough to let it. I didn't gloat. I didn't say, I told you so. I just accepted their apologies and moved forward. Because this was never about revenge. It was about making sure that when people remembered this chapter of our family's history, they remembered what actually happened. Not the story someone had invented to make themselves look better. Vanessa's role in the family changed after that. Not dramatically. Not with some big confrontation or public shaming. She just quietly stopped being the center of everything. When Uncle Thomas planned his birthday party, he asked me to help organize it instead of her. When Aunt Beverly needed someone to coordinate the family reunion, she called me. When my dad had his follow-up doctor's appointments, he asked me to come with him. Vanessa wasn't excluded exactly. She was just no longer the default person everyone turned to. She noticed. I could tell by the way she acted at family gatherings. Quieter, less confident, watching instead of leading. Sometimes I almost felt sorry for her. She'd built this whole identity around being the devoted wife, the family hero, the one who held everything together. And it had all been constructed on a foundation of lies that couldn't survive simple fact-checking. But then I remembered how she'd looked at me that night in my dad's living room, surrounded by family members who believed I'd abandoned them. The satisfaction in her eyes as she painted me as selfish and uncaring. The way she'd stolen 3 days with my dad that I could never get back. And the pity disappeared. 3 months after everything fell apart, Vanessa tried one more time to rewrite the narrative. She sent a message to the family group chat apologizing for any confusion during my dad's health crisis and hoping we could all move forward together as a family. The message was carefully worded. She took responsibility for being unclear in her communications, but stopped short of admitting she deliberately kept me away. She framed it as a misunderstanding, not a manipulation. A few people responded with supportive messages. We all did our best during a stressful time. Let's just focus on the future. Family is what matters. I didn't respond at all, because by then I'd learned something important. Some people will never admit what they did wrong. They'll minimize it, reframe it, or blur the edges until their actions don't look quite so bad. And that's okay, because the people who matter know the truth. The people who took time to look at the evidence, ask questions, and think critically about what really happened. Those are the people whose opinions I care about. The others can believe whatever makes them comfortable. I don't need their validation anymore. Vanessa messaged me privately a few weeks later. The text came through late at night. I know we haven't talked much lately. I just want you to know that I never meant for things to get so complicated. I was overwhelmed during your dad's crisis and made some choices I regret. I hope someday you can understand that my intentions were good, even if my execution was flawed. Can we meet for coffee and talk this through? I looked at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to meet her, to hear her explanation, to understand what had driven her to do something so deliberately hurtful. But a bigger part of me knew that meeting wouldn't give me closure. It would just give her another opportunity to try to convince me that what happened wasn't really her fault, that it was all a big misunderstanding, that I was overreacting to innocent mistakes. So I didn't respond. Not with anger. Not with accusations. Not with anything. For the first time since this whole situation started, I felt completely calm. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need her to admit what she'd done. I didn't need her approval or understanding or reconciliation. I just needed to keep living my life with the people who genuinely cared about me. And that's exactly what I did. A year later, I stood at my dad's birthday party, watching my family laugh and talk and celebrate together. Vanessa was there, quiet and careful, staying mostly in the background. We were polite to each other. Civil. But the closeness she'd once pretended we had was gone. And neither of us tried to fake it anymore. Uncle Thomas cornered me near the food table. You handled that whole situation with a lot of grace, he said. I'm not sure I would have been so patient. Shrug. Getting angry wouldn't have changed anything. The truth was always going to come out. I just had to wait for people to see it. Still, he said, you lost time with your dad that you'll never get back. That has to hurt. Did hurt. Still did. But I'd learned something valuable through all of this. You can't control what stories people tell about you. You can't force people to see the truth if they're not ready. But you can control your own response. You can stay calm when others expect you to fall apart. You can document facts when others spread fiction. And you can trust that eventually, if you're patient and strategic enough, the truth will speak for itself. Vanessa had tried to write me out of my family's story. She tried to recast me as the villain in her narrative of devotion and sacrifice. But she forgot something important. The best stories don't just have drama and emotion. They have evidence, timestamps, records, proof. My stepmom claimed I abandoned my family during a crisis. But the records told a different story. They told the truth. And in the end, that's the only story that mattered. I didn't abandon my family. I just stopped letting someone else decide who I was.